Today I wanted to talk about how I learned to play the saxophone. Still not that great. Every year on my birthday, I set myself goals. I've been doing this for 10 years. I'm actually working on a video to talk about that because for me it's been really a game changer. But as I've been doing this for the last 10 years, it gets harder and harder to think of new goals, especially since every year I'm setting between 5 and 7 of them. Last year, I decided to set myself a goal of learning to play the saxophone. I'm not really a musical person. I enjoy listening to music, and I especially love listening to the saxophone in a live concert or going to a jazz bar. But for me, learning to play this instrument was really a path that was unexpected. My hopes for today's video is that it might inspire you to learn something completely new, as I've done with this instrument. I'm going to talk a bit about the path that this last year, or at least this journey, where it has led me and where I'm at now with the saxophone. So it all started with my brainstorming of my goals last year, and I had the idea to write down, take a saxophone class. Seems pretty simple, right? Well, after I wrote it down, I was pretty excited with the idea, and rather than procrastinate and keep that goal throughout the year, I figured I would have a jump start and start searching for saxophone classes right away. So I went on Google, I wrote saxophone classes near me, and found really a few options. Relatively affordable, okay, sounds great. I could book a class. But wait, you need to bring your own saxophone. All right, so next logical step was searching how much a saxophone costs. Well, lo and behold, they could be really quite expensive, some being upwards of $5,000 easily. Well, that's a bit expensive to just start testing out something that I have no idea if I'll enjoy or if I'll be somewhat decent at. So that kind of stopped me for a second. But then I had the idea, well, maybe I could rent some. So next Google search, renting saxophones in Montreal. And surprisingly enough, there was a store not too far away from myself where I could rent them for $30 to $40 a month. I figure that's the best way to start and see, to try to achieve my goal for the year. So I went to the saxophone shop, told them I'm a complete beginner, and walked away with a student saxophone. So now, rather than book a class with a teacher right away, I figured I'd have some fun and try to learn on myself for a bit. Well, first thing is assembling a saxophone, because little did I know, they come apart. So you have this piece, which a year later, I don't even know the name of, to be frank, but let's call it the beak, the head of the saxophone. And then you have this part that also comes off, which you need to assemble. And then you have this piece of wood that attaches. Let me show you. I really should know the names of these pieces if I'm doing a video on it, but hell, that's not the point is, it took me a while to even understand which way it goes on the saxophone. At first, I had it upside down, which you can't really play with, and it was simply by posting videos on Instagram showing people that I rented a saxophone I was trying to learn that people told me I was doing it wrong. Anyways, so this was the first step, and I wasn't scared to admit at all. I had no idea what I was doing, and I was kind of happily advancing in utter ignorance, which was kind of the point. I was super happy to be learning something brand new that I had absolutely zero knowledge about, and I wasn't afraid to admit it. I realized then that, okay, it might be difficult to learn it all by myself, and I decided to turn to YouTube. There's a plethora of information on the web, and YouTube was a great place for me to start to, well, just write saxophone class for beginners. I started following upon bunch of videos and just explaining first and foremost how to set up the saxophone. I just remember the name of this. It's called a reed. This piece of wood on the beak, that's called a reed. So how to set up the reed, how you need to wet it before applying it on, how to check that it's properly attached so you could put it on your palm and suck and have that sound, which means it's nicely fit. So once I learned how to assemble it, then the next step came to play some first notes on the saxophone. Here again, had no idea where to place my fingers. That I knew I had to use two hands, but proper finger placement is extremely important. There's a way to do it, and I did not know what it was. So after watching a few videos, I understood where to place my fingers and start playing just a few notes. It sounded pretty horrible because I didn't learn breathing techniques yet, how to modulate your mouth to be able to create a proper sound if you're playing higher notes or lower notes. It really became a whole exploration into a wind instrument. After a few days of watching YouTube videos and trying to play some first little songs, nursery rhymes essentially, I was having trouble because I wasn't able to play a few notes, and I really didn't understand why. I was looking at a bunch of YouTube videos and Reddit threads to try to troubleshoot what was happening and figure out what I was doing wrong. It didn't work, and I finally figured out, well, might as well take an actual saxophone class. And in a way, I felt I'd already accomplished my goal of taking a saxophone class because I had one in my hands and was following these YouTube videos. But I wanted to take it one step further because in my mind, how I envisioned a saxophone class was in person with an actual teacher. So I took the step. I had to sign up to La Coopérative des Professeurs de Musique de Montréal, which is essentially an organization that represents a bunch of different music teachers across the city of Montreal, and was paired up with a fantastic teacher that I ended up meeting up with at his house and had my first saxophone class with. Now, very quickly, this was an awesome experience because off the bat, one thing that I learned is that I wasn't really doing anything wrong per se. There was a problem with one of the keys on the saxophone. Because it was a rental instrument, something had been bent, and when I was pressing one of the keys, the note was not being activated and essentially rendering it unable to play that note. So for the last few days, I thought I was doing something wrong when really I just didn't understand there was something wrong with the instrument that my teacher was easily able to fix. Disclaimer, he also thought I was doing something wrong until I showed him that I really looked into the problem. And at the end of the day, it was the saxophone. So that was a huge sign of relief. I was really happy because after that point, I was able to make a ton of progress. The next big frontier came that he wanted me to learn to read sheet music. That's how he taught his class. That's how we were able to how he wanted me to progress in playing the saxophone, was to be able to start doing exercises, and to do his exercises being able to read sheet music. Now, this for me was something that I didn't expect at all getting into it. It never even crossed my mind that it might be something I would need to do. And frankly, it was extremely intimidating because I've never had an interest to read sheet music. I had no idea how it worked. Having a teacher in this process really helped me out to just give me the confidence to start learning. And then I accompanied it with searching on the web, looking on YouTube of just the theory behind sheet music, the history about it, which having multiple perspectives on how to learn sheet music for me was really beneficial to be able to have my own way of learning it. And now, happy to say, a few months later, I'm able to read sheet music slowly. I'm not able to play at the speed I would like to play, that because my reading of the notes is still rather slow. But from that goal of saying I want to take a saxophone class to now being able to say I could also read sheet music has been really an incredible journey in a way, and who knows where it might lead. So back to the saxophone itself. After a few classes with my teacher and renting it now for 2-3 months, well, I figured I'm going to continue, and rather than paying a monthly fee to rent it, maybe now might be the time to buy one. He gave me the idea that I could buy one used rather than buying one new, and I like that approach, as I've already bought camera equipment on the secondhand market, which has been great, and I figured an instrument with no electrical components might be something also that would work very well secondhand. So I looked on Marketplace, I found a seller selling this exact saxophone that he recommended, and went to pick it up, and that's the one I have now. Once again, for me this was a huge milestone and something that I didn't expect at all, because by writing the goal of just taking a saxophone class, I never thought that I would own a saxophone. Like, that was not in the scope of the extent I saw, that I had a vision of in writing that goal. It was really just to try something new, get out of my comfort zone, and yeah, have a new experience to add to my roster. But then again, I love this instrument, and I saw myself maybe in the future just having one hanging on my wall without necessarily knowing how to play it, just because I like the look of a saxophone. But now I can not only admire it for the object it is, but also be able to play it. Still not great. I'm even far from good in my opinion. But a year later, I'm actually able to play this thing, which I find is completely crazy. I could play it by reading sheet music, I could play it from memory, I could even improvise with it. The moral of the story is really around goal setting and challenging yourself with new experiences, with things that excite you, maybe even scare you a bit. But the beauty of it is you don't know where it's going to lead. If you just start working towards it, you might be pleasantly surprised, and it might bring you to somewhere completely new. A beautiful place, full of learning and new experiences. So that has been my saxophone journey. It's still continuing. I'm playing less than I would like, because I went far beyond the goal I had originally set. And I'm okay with that. If I slow down and stop playing tomorrow, at the end of the day, it's okay, because I've done it and I want to do other things. I still plan on continuing a bit. I've not taken any classes in a few months now, but still have picked it up once in a while to play and just to improvise and have a good time with it. And even at that, I just find it's crazy that I'm able to do now. If I had a stressful day or just want to chill out and relax, I'm able to pick up my saxophone, sit on the balcony or in the living room, and just play for a bit. I hope this story encourages you to maybe try something new, whether that's a new instrument, a new sport, a new language, or whatever the case may be. Something that you might want to try one day. Well, what if you make that one day today? I'll see you in the next one.